For someone who doesn't understand the whole process of cannabis, why? Because I'm ready to learn and I'm ready to help the others also understand what you do, its importance, what it does. If you could touch on maybe how, especially the fact that it cures diseases, so people don't know this thing.
Right, a lot of people don't know that cannabis is inside everyone, right? Inside your body, you have something called the endocannabinoid system. Cannabis is the one product that has prevented HIV from becoming AIDS. And so there's a lot of medicinal value in cannabis.
Just to get further on what you just said, in terms of GDP, how do you see it improving Africa's GDP or any country that you have been?
So imagine you can bring an additional $10 billion to Rwanda by being able to create cannabis-based products and exporting them to a lot of these regions. It's very feasible for Rwanda to be generating well over $10 to $20 billion within that sector.
On today's episode, I'm with Rene Joseph, the founder and CEO of KKOG Organics. Welcome to the show today. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me, Belize.
Super excited for today's episode because I'm ready to learn and I'm ready to help the others also understand what you do. If we could start off, could you tell us a little bit about KKOG and how did you start it? Just a little bit about yourself integrated with KKOG.
Okay. Well, KKOG, we're a cannabis company out of California. We came to Africa in 2019. We saw an opportunity when a lot of the African countries started regulating and allowing the cultivation of cannabis. We decided we needed to kind of jump on the opportunity because we feel that Africa has the capacity to truly control the commodity that is medicinal cannabis.
Nice. And how long have you been in this business?
Oh, God. I have been assisting with cannabis cultivation since 2016.
That's a long time.
In California, yeah?
Yeah.
It's been a while. Been a while.
Okay. So I would want to know, do you consider yourself, let's say as an African, how can you consider yourself as someone changing the African narrative through your story as a king of cannabis in Africa?
Well, I truly want to kind of get the message across to all of the powers that be in the people who are the decision makers in each African country, that they are truly at the precipice of being able to expand on their country's GDP 200-fold if they correctly understand the opportunity that's available to them in a way that they can then harness it globally.
Okay.
And so I felt that it was important for me to come to Africa and at least attempt to try to assist with giving the people in power the understanding of the industry from inside the industry. Because a lot of times you have people that kind of come and take advantage and just take off takes of the raw materials, and then they bring the real revenues to the host countries or the other countries that they're coming from. And I didn't want to see that happen in Africa because I knew just how exponential the revenues could be for Africa.
Okay. Just to get further on what you just said, in terms of GDP, how do you see it improving Africa's GDP or any country that you have been? Are there any maybe statistics that you have encountered so far where you can say this works? If countries could learn more about it, all of us as a continent, we could grow.
Well, I can give you some numbers. For example, Morocco. Morocco has a $10 billion a year cannabis industry, and that's illegal, right? That's because they're not fully legal yet recreationally, but $10 billion is a lot compared to Rwanda, right? Their GDP is, I believe, 12 billion or 15 billion. Imagine if...
I think it's 14.
14, there you go. So imagine you can bring an additional $10 billion to Rwanda by being able to create cannabis-based products and exporting them to a lot of these regions. It's very feasible for Rwanda to be generating well over $10 to $20 billion within that sector. But
Okay.
they would just have to kind of really know and have a better direction of how to go about it. And so I felt it important to come to Rwanda and kind of have the meetings and give clarity.
And we're excited to have you here in Rwanda. For someone who doesn't understand the whole process of cannabis, why its importance, what it does, if you could touch on maybe how, especially the fact that it cures diseases, some people don't know these things, and how it's a great contribution to business in general.
Okay. Well, on the medicinal side, right, a lot of people don't know that cannabis is inside everyone, right? Inside your body, you have something called the endocannabinoid system. And within your body, the endocannabinoid system regulates your immune system, regulates your gastrointestinal system, and regulates your nervous system, which
Yeah.
is why people with Tourette's, people with seizures and depression and the like, they have an imbalance of the cannabis that is within their system, right? They're born with deficiencies. And so, which is why when they consume cannabis,
Yeah.
these Tourette's and these seizures and these episodes subside because they have now
A
a more
balance.
balanced within their
Ah,
body.
okay.
And so, from a medicinal side, if you know medicines, right, majority of medicines are plant based. And so, cannabis is one of the few plants that, as a whole, globally, we have not researched or studied. And so then you think, you say, okay, well, what are the diseases that we don't have cures for, right?
Yeah.
The cancers, the sickle cell and malaria and the HIV. Maybe these diseases could be cured with cannabis. And so we created a research arm of our company, KKOG, to study the effects of cannabinoids and cannabis strains and cannabis ingredients such as CBG, cannabigerol, which is one ingredient of a cannabis strain that only grows in Africa.
Really?
Yes,
I was
and
not aware. Okay.
that strain,
Yeah.
believe it or not, has stopped the lung issues from COVID, because COVID is immune response disease, and
Mm.
your endocannabinoid system is regulated. Your immune system is regulated there, and so there you think to yourself, okay, well, this is an immune response problem. I take cannabis. Maybe within cannabis, there's solutions to this immune issue. So if you look at HIV,
Right.
um, cannabis is the one product that has prevented HIV from becoming AIDS, right? And that's a acquired immune deficiency syndrome issue. And so there's a lot of medicinal value in cannabis medicinally for people that suffer from different ailments.
Okay. I could explain the story that I saw the other day. There was a man, this was in the US though. He had something similar to Tourette's. I'm not sure of the name, but he had had it for over 40 years. And he had been on bed, like he would stay in his room most of the time. And somehow his nephew, who knew and had done research, brought it and did not tell the nurse who was looking after him and stuff that he was going to give it to him. So he gave it to him. Somehow his shaking disappeared. He had a little bit more of stability, started, getting better. And they were like, we need to take this to the news. This is huge. He's been like this for 40 years and now he's better and stuff. And I was like, I should actually do more research and understand
Oh,
how maybe
definitely.
it could help different people with actually other diseases that have not been researched on, which I'm guessing that's what you do, right?
Definitely,
Yeah.
definitely. We have a research arm to our company, KKOG. We have the obviously medicinal exportation, extraction of cannabis oils. We actually create cannabis-based recreational products such as vapes and gummies and cookies and all those. But we also export oils for the wholesale market globally.
Oh, okay, okay. And I understand you're operating in 6 countries in Africa, correct?
We are licensed in 6 countries,
That's
and we
huge.
have operations in 6 countries, but we also have a presence in 8 other countries where we're kind of assisting governments with regulations on how to regulate the industry and how to put controls and measures so there's no leakage within the, uh, uh, the population and their constituencies. And so we feel shortly we should start getting a lot of these countries in line. Countries like Kenya might be coming on board soon. Countries like Central African Republic, Ivory Coast. A lot of these countries that we're working with, Ghana, just I guess approved, but haven't really kind of put in the parameters yet. But there's a lot of countries in Africa that are kind of understanding it better and deciding this is a good course and a good direction for their country.
And a good way for countries to make money, to be honest, as a
100%, 100%.
So you spoke of how countries can be onboarded, but for example, the other day I wrote the article for your company, and people asked, they're like, what are some criteria for onboarding investors, partners, governments in this cannabis business, and have you faced any challenges onboarding them?
Well, I mean, that's there's a lot in there in that question.
Yeah.
With regards to governments, we have MOUs with a lot of different governments, with ministries of defense, with a lot of government agencies we've partnered with. We're open to partnerships with any country that's interested in expanding that opportunity.
Okay.
As far as investors go, we don't necessarily have a lot of private investors per se. Our goal is to kind of create the revenues within ourselves so that way we have little to no debt. But we do have a desire to be on an exchange in the very near future. We were entertaining the Johannesburg Stock Exchange for a while, and then it became gray listed, and that kind of we had to pivot. But we're looking at Zurich Stock Exchange. We've been told Nairobi Stock Exchange, and so we're kind of entertaining all the different opportunities to give smaller investors the ability to invest in our company, and so that way we can then expand exponentially.
Okay. And for the youth, they remain to be the largest population in Africa in terms of unemployment, which is happening year by year. How does this business innovation plan to create new jobs considering the value chain in the cannabis business, and what opportunities are there for the young people?
Wow, there's a lot of great questions, by the way. The youth, they really have their finger on the pulse of business and opportunities, and I get a lot of young adults that are wanting to know everything there is about the opportunity, and I'm open to talking to everyone, having dialogue with just about everyone. But it kind of starts with government, right? Because if government puts in place parameters that say, okay, you need $100,000 to be licensed, you need these big impossible numbers, yeah, and it limits the amount of people that can get into the industry, right? So if, for example, a young adult is starting off, he doesn't have, hundreds of thousands of dollars to try to get into this sector. And so they would have to create kind of like parent companies that you can have then smaller farmers and smaller agriculturally minded people that want to either learn about the business, cultivate, or learn about extraction and the chemical extraction process, or the manufacturing process of finished goods. But we would need the governments to kind of put parameters in place that allow for that without the need for the hundreds of thousands of dollars just to get a license.
Okay. Many people worry that when a company kind of starts in a country and it's mainly for exporting or medicinal use, there's some way it can leak into the community. What measures do you have so that this does not happen?
Well, RDB has set up really stringent regulations. We have double ring fencing around all of our facility. We have Rwanda National Police is the security, the first barrier of entry. And then we also have our own security within the perimeter of our facilities. And so RDB has done a phenomenal job of making sure that that's not an issue. But again, at the end of the day, cannabis is such a high value product. It's kind of like gold mining. If you have a gold mine, as government, I don't need to tell you to secure it,
Yeah.
because you're going to secure it because it's very valuable for you. Same thing here, right?
So you do everything possible to make sure.
100%, right? Because cannabis oils are, we sell them anywhere from $10,000 to $40,000 a liter.
Wow.
So we want to make sure that every drop, every grain, every gram is
Measured and
accounted
accounted for.
for.
Okay.
100%.
You touched on the farmers aspect of things, but I know there's a lot of small farmers not able to enter the lucrative cannabis market and business, that lack the knowledge, high costs, and no market for the officials. How do you feel they can also benefit and try to start, if possible?
Well, there are lots of opportunities for small farmers. For example, when I was alluding to government has to put parameters in place to allow for that. Zimbabwe is an example. Government of Zimbabwe has over 30,000 small farmers that want to enter into the cannabis sector. And reason being is majority of the exports of Zimbabwe, for example, tobacco.
Yeah.
Farmers in Zimbabwe get about $2.50 to $3 a kilo for tobacco. And tobacco is a plant that takes 11 months to grow. Cannabis, we're offering $25 a kg. And it's a 4-month, 6-month cultivation cycle. So these small farmers will be getting $50 a kilo per year versus $2.50. This is exponential in the amount of times and the amount of families that they can help, as opposed to the $2.50. Now they have $50. It can feed not only their family, but their family's family and their cousin's family and everybody's family. And so it's a lot more revenue for them. And what we also implement is we provide the seeds for these small farmers. So one of the biggest expenses with cannabis cultivation is seeds, right? Seeds, feminized seeds are between $10 and $15 a seed. And at 10,000 seeds per hectare, you're talking about $150,000. And a small farmer that has 10 hectares, the money just keeps growing exponentially. And so what we do is we not only teach them, we provide them the seeds for free. And once they cultivate it, we then offtake. So that way it saves them the headache of trying to figure out who's going to be their offtaker, the headache and the risk of planting a seed that may or may not grow, or the knowledge or the lack of knowledge of growing. And so because Zimbabwe has provided these parameters that makes it able for these small farmers to be able to cultivate and take advantage of the opportunity and kind of jump into the sector, it has helped them exponentially.
I think the name stands for what you do. You're literally the King Kong of this. It's a good business, and I'm so glad that I'm able to learn so much about it. People had different connotations that it's just drug business and stuff, but once you actually go ahead and do research and understand how it can actually save lives and help people get better, I think it's a great investment for every country to begin with.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Again, a lot of people have that negative connotation that cannabis is X or cannabis is Y. But all the studies show that cannabis is not addictive. It's non-habit forming.
Yeah.
It's less addictive than tobacco, definitely less addictive than alcohol. And it's but one component, right? If you look at a cannabis plant as a whole, there's over 50 to 100 different ingredients. And the one ingredient that gets people the high that they feel, or the euphoric, or that feeling, is just the THC. But all of the other components have so much value medicinally, health-wise, that you can...
each has its own power?
Each has its own benefits, right? CBD has depression. It helps with depression, helps with mood, helps with cramps in women during their period. I mean, it's exponential, and every different type of cannabis has a whole bunch of different properties. And so some properties might work better for others and less for a different person. And of course, we can modify the high aspect of it, right? It's kind of like alcohol. If you drink alcohol like whiskey that's 40% alcohol, you get drunk a lot faster than beer, which is 8% alcohol.
Yeah.
And so you can have cannabis strains that have a low amount of THC or a high amount of THC for pain management and be kind of just mellow and, relaxed and chill. It's, there's a whole bunch of different things that you can find benefits within the cannabis plant itself that to give it this negative connotation of this one aspect that gets you high is
I understand
crazy.
for any business to be a good business is when you're solving problems, and clearly your business does that.
Thank you.
On that point, I would want to know, in terms of expansion, where do you see KKOG in the next 10, 5 years in Africa?
We're hoping to command
Yeah.
the commodity.
Mm-hmm.
And we were looking to be the De Beers of cannabis, right? And so we can bring those revenues to Africa. We can create the finished product and export it globally because the demand is insatiable.
Yeah.
For everything cannabis, from the pharmaceutical aspect, right? The Pfizers of the world, the Bayers and Roche, they use these cannabis oils, and it's just very hard to get, which is why the price is so high. And so we will definitely provide that market, and of course the recreational in Canada and the U.S. will provide that market, and we'll do the research in Africa to find new cures for diseases that ail everyone, the tuberculosis, the malaria, the sickle cell diseases that a lot of the big companies are not really putting the money behind. And with the revenues we're generating on the recreational and the medicinal sales, we're putting it into research to hopefully find cures for these issues.
You've nailed it. You've actually explained it pretty well. So for anyone who would want to, but maybe before we get to that, is there anything else that I have not touched on that you would like to explain in terms of the company, or how you'd want an opportunity for here so that growth can come?
I honestly think it's moving so fast.
Yeah.
I mean, Africa exponentially, it's moving so fast. You have one country after the next, and we're running to catch up. And I see just incredible things for Africa with regards to the money, right? A lot of the issues that I saw growing up in the U.S. with the things that Africa, the constraints that Africa is going against, the lack of water, famine, or what have you, all of these things can be solved with money. And if we can generate a lot of that money and retain it and keep it in Africa, we can then allocate it to those things and remove these issues, right? We don't have issues with not being able to gather water everywhere, right? To provide jobs for everyone, to provide education to everyone. I mean, it's incredible. I mean, you have a lot of countries in Africa that have incredible, 70, 80% of Zimbabweans are college educated, right? It's just, and I would love it to be 100% of all of Africa.
That would be great.
Yeah, that would be ideal, but with money, right? We just need to retain every single dollar and then put it to benefit the continent. That would be a dream for me.
There's a number you gave me for Canada in terms of what they've generated.
Well, yeah, Forbes magazine came out late last year. Canada generated $43.5 billion US dollars in the last 5 years, charging a 7% tax. And then you look at it and you say, okay, well, where's the other 93%?
Right, yeah.
Like, who's pocketing that? Where is that going? How is that benefiting the world in any way, right? And so we have the ability here in Africa, on the continent, to command this commodity, to hold on to all those profits and those revenues, and then allocate them to the right places, departments, education, water, what have you, health, and infrastructure, and literally leapfrog change on the continent. And I mean, if you look at that country, right, Canada in itself, it's a population of 37 million people. So if they generated $43.5 billion charging a 7% tax on 37 million. How much
That's a lot of money.
can they generate in a country like Nigeria,
Right.
which is a population of 211 million people? And majority, well, larger percentage smoke in Nigeria than in Canada.
Okay.
So should, or when, Nigeria comes on board and says, well, we want to be part of this industry, they can literally command 25% of the global sales of cannabis just in Nigeria.
Interesting.
It's the numbers are just,
the numbers
it blow me
until
away.
you understand. But also, I think we need to clarify that it's not an easy market to get in.
Not
It requires a lot of machinery, a lot of knowledge, a lot of understanding of the soil, cultivation,
school fees. Oh my God.
all of that.
Yeah, the amount of school fees
Yeah.
to do this industry. But, you know, through that experience, you know, we can then take advantage because now we know.
Okay.
Right. But like you said, there's just so many barriers to entry that, you know, you need millions and millions of dollars to be able to be successful and to be able to have the appetite or the ability to kind of get over those walls, right, of the school fees and learn and adjust and adapt and pivot. And, you know, I think we've done that here in the last 5 years in Africa.
Yeah.
And dealt with COVID for 2 years. Oh my God, COVID! I can't.
Let's not even go back to that. We're here moving forward.
Yes.
And for now, moving forward, we're actually glad as a Rwandan that we're being more open-minded and understanding such potentials of businesses, and we look forward to whatever's going to come out of it. There's so many people who have questions for sure. I'm guessing we'll put the email somewhere down or contact. But it's such a great honor getting to interview here on this show, and it means a lot. And we look forward to everything. You start operating when?
We finish our building end of May.
End of May,
and,
okay.
Should RDB finish everything that they need to do, we can then put seeds in the ground and start cultivating shortly thereafter.
So much to look forward to. More updates will definitely be coming on, and thank you for tuning in.